Dave Wheeler, you are our PGM in Lincolnshire, responsible for 3,300 Lincolnshire Masons. What do you love about being a Mason? Talk to me.
The thing I really enjoy about being a Freemason is the fact that it's a great leveller, that at a lodge or a festive board, you don't talk politics, you don't talk religion, you don't necessarily talk work in my case, my previous occupation, but what you do is meet like-minded people who have similar values, who you can share a great fraternity with.
When did you join Masonry?
Oh, I joined just over 30 years ago. My father was a Mason and my eldest brother is a Mason.
Okay. And did you just get in because of the family connection?
I suppose so, you could say that, although my father was keen for me to join as a Lewis at 18, and I really wasn't. I was still finding my way in life. He was really keen for me to join and kept saying, you must join, and I would say to him in those days, so what's it all about? And he would say, I can't tell you anything about it. So a few years later when my children were born, my father became ill, my life alters as it does as you get older. I was probably more clear in what I wanted to do than it appeared to be the right time to join. And on reflection, I do wish I'd joined earlier.
What perceptions did you have of Masonry before you joined it?
I think the common myths that are shared by the public. I thought it was an old men's club where people may look after each other and do their own thing. All of those myths were quickly exploded on my first evening. Bearing in mind I've grown up with Freemasons. My father was a Freemason for a long time. A lot of my family friends, when I was a youngster, were Freemasons. I used to go to Masonic functions with my parents. And funnily enough, everybody I met was really good and good fun. So why I got those perceptions, I think probably the media at that time influenced my thinking like a lot of other people.
So what year did you join them as a Freemason?
1987.
1987. So what year did you become Worshipful Master in your own lodge?
I went through the chair relatively quickly. We had, in my lodge, 4 people resigned at the same time who were all on the ladder. So I went from steward to Tyler to junior deacon. I missed inner guard out, and I've never done inner guard in craft up to this day. And I felt it was a bit too fast, really. It was 7 years from joining Masonry to going through the chair, which I wasn't comfortable with. I was working at Lincoln at the time, living in Grantham, working in Lincoln and travelling shift work, young family. But having said that, the year in the chair went very quickly, went very well, and I did enjoy it.
What's been your low point in Masonry?
I don't think many low points, really. I've always enjoyed it.
Or your biggest challenge?
I think one of my biggest challenges was perhaps the lack of openness in other areas of Masonry. So it was almost like you became a Mason and you were expected to know things without anybody telling you anything. We're a lot more open now. There's a lot more discussion about Masonry. But I know when I first joined, some of the things that happened sort of passed me by, and it took me a few years to work out why people sat where they did, who did what, and I was probably a little bit naive as well in that respect. But
you said that it took you 7 years to go from basically coming through the door as a brand new Mason to sitting in the big chair behind us. We're going to go into a lot more detail in another video, but do you think there are some lodges out there that do rush their newer brethren through a bit quick?
Well, I understand in some of the, perhaps in metropolitan lodges, people can go through the chair within 3 or 4 years. And again, it depends on the person. If they're a mature person and their life experiences, it may work for them. For my personal story, there's never a good time to go, and I'm absolutely sure on installation night, if somebody had said, would I like to go through the lodge door or through an exit door, I may have chosen the exit door. It is quite daunting. And it wasn't until halfway through the installation ceremony that I actually felt comfortable in the chair. And I think, like many other Worshipful Masters, just when I got to the end of the year and thought I might have a handle on this, then they changed me. And that was it. And I think I think that's more my makeup than the actual job.
What did you have any fears as being a Worshipful Master?
Well, I just think it's knowing the right things to do at the right time. And if anything stops in the lodge, people look at the DC, and then the DC looks at the Worshipful Master. And it was probably realising that when they're all looking at me, then it must be my turn to do something. I think the ritual can be quite daunting, and it takes time to learn. There are people that are very good ritualists who can learn it quickly. For me, it did take an awful lot of work and practice and practice and practice. And still then, my DC used to say that I just put my own words in at the appropriate time, but I did get to the end at some point eventually.
It's like when you miss a word out and six of the older brethren at the back correct you 6 different ways.
Yeah, and
I'm only pulling your leg.
No. One of my sort of bugbears in any lodge is that I think there should only be 2 people prompting, and that would be the ADC and the IPM. And I know people think they're being helpful, but when somebody's struggling, it doesn't help that probably 20 people all offer their version of what they think he should say, which more often than not isn't the correct version of what he should say.
So you went through the chair in 7 years. 20 years later, you are our leader, our Provincial Grandmaster. What did that 20 years look like? Because there's plenty of people who have been in lodge for 50 years and would never get your job, the PGM job.
Yeah, no, I agree. Nobody was more surprised than me to be asked. I was surprised when I got my first provincial appointment, which was an active appointment. I was very.
How quick was that?
That was 6 years after going through the chair. I was provincial sword bearer. I was surprised to get my first grand rank appointment, and in fact thought that the correspondence must have gone to the wrong address. I was completely taken aback when I was asked to be assistant provincial grandmaster. And
What year was that?
That was 3 years ago.
Okay.
So the then Provincial Grandmaster Graham Ives called me in to talk about membership, because I was the provincial membership officer, and said, no, I don't want to talk about membership, I want to talk about something else. And I think I did a very good impression of a goldfish, with my mouth dropping open and closing. I was completely taken aback, but delighted as well to have a go at that role.
Excluding your own lodge and your own chapter, how many nights a week are you out a month?
It's very manageable, and it depends. I mean, that's not a direct answer. More daytime commitments at the moment.
Really?
With meetings. I've been out 4 days this week during the day for admin-style meetings at the provincial office and other centres, looking at things such as the almoner's work, the buildings issues within the province through the superintendent of works, a meeting with the executive just to chat through some issues. Next week I've got 2 evenings, the week after I've got 4, and it can depend. It's very manageable though, and I do have control over my movements, and I can say that I'm going to something or that I'm not.
How does your wife feel about the fact that you're never there?
She's delighted. She's very supportive. She sees Masonry as my thing. We have this sort of conversation every time when there's a joint invitation. Liz, my wife, said, do I have to go? And if I say, I'd like you to go, then she'll come. If I say, no, you don't have to go, then she's quite happy not coming, because she does see it as my hobby, but is tremendously supportive as well.
Pretty big hobby though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is in some sense. Bearing in mind when I was working full-time that I was on call 3 weeks out of 4, 24/7. And on the 4th week, when I wasn't on call, I'd often get called out anyway. So Liz is used to not having me about. I've done work around the country and abroad. So I've been absent for a long time, and all credit to her. When the children were little, she pretty much brought them up single-handedly in one sense. And we do our own things. So she's more than happy when I go to lodge. She knows exactly where I am and what I'm doing, and if she needs to come to an event with me, and she has been to a few social occasions, and really enjoyed them as well.
So what final question? What's the future for Lincolnshire when it comes to the province under your guidance and management in the next 9 years?
Okay, I've said this before. I mean, we had a fantastic foundation to build on. Graham Ives did a great job in his 10 years as Grand Superintendent and Provincial Grandmaster. And we're different people. Graham has been really supportive to me and still is, and I can ring him or meet with him at any time, and he's really helpful. But we are different people. I think Masonry is changing as well, and those two things have coincided, about being more open, letting people know what we actually do and not what they think we do, and just really trying to promote Masonry internally and externally. And I say internally because I think there is a role to encourage the province to enjoy craft, chapter and all the other elements of Masonry. And I think externally there's a real issue to be available in the community, open about what we do, and let people see the real face of Freemasonry, not the perceptions from years gone by.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.